What do you do when you find you have a day in the middle of your trip to Las Cruces with nothing planned? You want to know more about southern New Mexico, but you'll still be in Las Cruces for some time to come. The solution? Take a day trip. I'm Cheryl Falstead.
And I'm Bud Russo, and we'll be your guides as we journey north, east, south, and west, exploring the land of enchantment for just the day.
During the growing season, a drive north along Highway 185 takes you through the verdant fields of the Mesilla Valley, where you can see cotton, chili, onions, pecans, and other crops growing.
The drive takes you past Fort Selden, our state monument preserving this historic frontier fort. Not only can you walk the parade ground past the remaining adobe walls of the fort, but you can learn its history in its museum and interpretation center. Time your visit to mid-September, and you can take part in Frontier Days, a reenactment of life at the fort in the late 1800s.
Next to the fort is Leesburg Dam State Park, a great place for a picnic, kayaking, and a stroll along the Rio Grande, a stream in winter and a flow of life-giving water in spring and summer.
Hatch is your turnaround point. Known as the chili capital of the world, Hatch has a number of shops offering food, ristras, and other chili-based decorations.
Over the Labor Day weekend, Hatch hosts the Chili Festival with music, food, and chili eating contests.
And if you want to eat before returning to Las Cruces, be sure to stop in at one of the local restaurants, like Sparky's, with its world-famous barbecue, burgers, and espresso.
You'll know you're at Sparky's when you see the larger-than-life figures and campy advertising signs adorning the building.
Heading east from Las Cruces on US 70 takes you past White Sands National Monument and on to Alamogordo.
White Sands National Monument is comprised of 275 square miles of pure gypsum dunes. Besides traveling Dune Drive to find a picnic spot or a place to go sledding, you can hike the nature trail or take in the daily sunset stroll, when rangers conduct a nature walk and then leave you atop a dune to marvel at the sunset.
Alamogordo has 3 venues that are particularly attractive to families with children.
There's the Alameda Park Zoo, the oldest zoo in the Southwest. It has more than 12 acres where over 250 exotic and indigenous animals, like this mountain lion, Mexican wolf, and river otter, help you appreciate wildlife in the Southwest.
At the north end of Alameda Park is the Toy Train Depot, which offers trains from as small as a dime to trains you can ride in. Besides fascinating scale models, the depot focuses on railroad history of Alamogordo for visitors.
A short drive from the train depot is the New Mexico Museum of Space History. Much of America's space history began in New Mexico, and this museum interprets it. There's the rocket sled Colonel John Stapp rode to 632 miles an hour. There are replicas of Sputnik 1 and Explorer 1, the first Russian and American satellites. And there's a moon rock displayed like the rare gem it is.
There's also an exhibit called Living and Working in Space, where visitors can examine spacesuits and food astronauts eat, as well as a replica of a space toilet, answering one of the most asked questions.
Our southern day trip takes us to El Paso, Texas, and a bit beyond. There are a lot of things to do in El Paso, but because this is a day trip, we'll tell you about 3 of our favorites.
The El Paso International Museum of Art, once the only repository for the antiquities and curiosities of El Paso, today offers a world-class collection of art created by regional artists as well as artists from other parts of the world.
The El Paso Museum of History exhibits the rich, multicultural, and multinational history of the border region, encouraging individuals to explore the past and reflect on their own place in history.
If you want to be a bit closer to the history of the region, you have to travel the Mission Trail, beginning at the Isleta Pueblo and its Mission Church in El Paso, and heading south to Socorro, and finally to San Elizario.
Along the trail, you'll be able to visit 3 missions dating to the 1700s and experience life as it was when El Camino Real was a main thoroughfare between Mexico City and Santa Fe.
In San Elizario, there's more than a church. You'll find a museum and other buildings of the Presidio or fort, art galleries, and El Bendito, a cafe serving traditional Mexican fare, and a green chili cheeseburger that could compete with any in New Mexico.
If you'd rather stop to eat on your way back in New Mexico, return on Highway 28 and visit the famous Chope's Bar and Cafe about 15 miles before Mesilla. When Horace Greeley advised people to go west, he didn't mean travel to Deming, but that's the direction we're taking now.
About an hour west of Las Cruces, Deming offers a number of attractions that can be seen in a day. Deming is home to one of the most interesting museums in southern New Mexico, the Deming Luna Mimbres Museum.
Located in an armory dating to 1916, the museum traces its beginnings to the Luna County Historical Society, which purchased the armory in 1977 to house its growing collections. Among the collections in the museum are more than 1,000 dolls, rare Mimbres pottery, and whimsical liquor decanters.
There's a replica of early Deming's Main Street and an authentic chuck wagon once used on the Diamond A Ranch.
There's also the Bessie May Room, honoring one of the founders with its Victorian furnishings. It includes a lavishly set table, as if the family is only moments away from sitting down to dinner.
30 miles south of Deming is the Pancho Villa State Park and the Columbus Railroad Depot Museum. The park commemorates military life at Fort Furlong in 1916, when Pancho Villa and his Villistas made their raid, the first time America was invaded since the British in 1812. The raid is commemorated each year during Pancho Villa days.
Across the highway is the Railroad Depot Museum that depicts Columbus's history, showing what life was like on the frontier in the 1800s. Besides railroad memorabilia, there's a replica of a clock, the only casualty in the depot from Villa's raid. The original is in Santa Fe in a museum.
Just east of Deming is Rockhound State Park, a rugged part of the Little Florida Mountains. People come here to dig minerals such as jasper, agate, and onyx. And when people are not digging rocks, they're digging the sounds of bluegrass music during the annual festival held over Memorial Day weekend.
Whatever direction you take, you'll find lots of interesting things to see and do, and still be back in Las Cruces in time for supper.
This podcast is sponsored by the Las Cruces Convention and Visitors Bureau
and produced by Explore New Mexico.